We're joined by our good friend John Sapochetti. Boston Herald Drive covers the New England Patriots, and he's with us here on Big Board Sports. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are we doing this morning?
Dion Lewis, man. That's all we're talking about. Dion.
That's all it is. 3 touchdowns on Saturday night, one on a kickoff return, one on a reception, and one on a run, something that doesn't get done often. You have to go back. Gale Sayers did it over 40 years ago, so that's in the Wayback Machine. But just a tremendous performance. He did have the fumble on the kickoff return, but when you score 3 touchdowns, you get a little bit of leeway on that.
Yeah, a couple fumbles certainly did not help, but it didn't affect the outcome of that game, and we're proud of Dion Lewis of the local product. Did you expect him to be used? How much did you expect him to be used going into that game, and how big of a factor do you think he will be now after that performance in the championship game on Sunday against Pittsburgh?
He's such a versatile player because he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Again, he has breakaway speed, hit the hole, and make a big play into the secondary. He has that type of ability, more so than LeGarrette Blount. And you could see that they've just been taking their time with Dion Lewis. He had the injury last year, which curtailed his season. By the way, the Patriots are 15-0 in games that Dion Lewis has played in. So he's actually been the X factor more than anyone. But also the fact that I think they just took their time with him coming back, and they used him in the right spot. You saw him in the game in Denver, which was a big game at the time last month, where he was the feature back in that game and had a very, very good game against the Denver Broncos. He can offer you a lot, and I think he'll be a big part of this game plan. That being said, you never know with Belichick and Josh McDaniels. They can go into a game plan and surprise you, but I would think that at some point we're going to see a lot of Dion on Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers, because just look at what he did a week ago against Houston. That doesn't always mean the next week is going to be the same game plan, but I think he's going to be a feature of the New England Patriots offensive game plan against the Steelers.
Yeah, and the Steelers are going to look at that tape and go, all right, we got to pay attention to this Dion Lewis guy, that's for sure. How's he handled the spotlight and the limelight, Dion? How's he done with the cameras rolling and the interviews and all of that? How's he handled that?
Well, he didn't post Bill Belichick's post-game speech on Facebook Live like Antonio Brown. That doesn't go on here. But he certainly handles it well. He seems like a very humble young guy, and also the fact that he seemed to be more upset with fumbling the kickoff return than actually scoring the 3 touchdowns. Because even with the Patriots winning by 18 points, it wasn't the most impressive performance. They were playing the weakest team that was left in the playoffs. Tom Brady was not thrilled with his performance. Less than 50% completion percentage, 2 interceptions. Bill Belichick wasn't pleased with the team's performance or the way the coaching staff got them ready for that game coming off the bye week. And Dion Lewis, even though he had 3 touchdowns, was more concerned that he fumbled the kickoff, because something like that can turn a game, especially when we're playing an opponent like Pittsburgh or whether it be Green Bay and Atlanta in the Super Bowl. When you have teams that are pretty even with you, one turnover like that can certainly change the game. I mean, the Patriots would have had to turn the ball over 6 times to let the Texans be a part of that game on Saturday night, and fortunately for them, they didn't go there.
John, we know you're on the radio in Boston. You talk a lot of Patriots, but in your heart of hearts, you're an Aaron Rodgers Packers guy. And
yes.
How excited are you at the prospect that a Super Bowl could contain the Aaron Rodgers and the Packers against Tom Brady and the Patriots, possibly the most decorated football player of all time in Brady against, in my estimation, the most talented quarterback of all time in Rodgers?
That would be the matchup I'm sure the NFL would want. Pittsburgh, Green Bay would also be a good matchup. No disrespect to the Atlanta Falcons, but they don't have the same cachet as the Patriots, Steelers, or Packers. But a Rodgers-Brady matchup, we saw it in the regular season 2 years ago. The Packers won that game 26-21. I thought that was one of the best played games of the 2014 season. These are the 2 best quarterbacks in football. I think they're both better than Peyton Manning. I think Rodgers is the most gifted quarterback I've ever seen. I'm 53 years old. I've gotten to see a lot of really good quarterbacks. I don't know of any other quarterback that has the total package that Rodgers has, the arm talent, the strength of arm, the accuracy, the ability to throw on the run, the ability to run, read defenses, all of it. He really is the total package, and we know what Brady's accomplished here. I think that would be spectacular. I know they don't play against each other, but talk about a marquee matchup, Brady and Rodgers, and certainly if that was the case for the 2 weeks leading up to the game, I certainly would be insufferable.
Yeah, it will be a great matchup, but don't forget about Big Ben and this Roethlisberger.
Big Ben's always in play.
Yeah, he's good, and I think the Steelers have a fighting chance. Look, I thought Houston, if they don't have Brock Osweiler at quarterback, who knows? I mean, he was terrible, I thought, John, on Saturday night, and the Houston defense turned Brady over a couple times in that game, and and Brock is thrown to the wrong team.
You make a case that actually of the 8 teams that played this weekend, that the Houston Texans had the best defense. At least statistically they did, right? They've given up the fewest yards of any team during the regular season. We know that the Patriots have given up the fewest points. But if you put one of these great quarterbacks on the Houston Texans, whether it's Rodgers, Ryan, Brady, or Ben Roethlisberger, the 4 quarterbacks that are left standing, the Houston Texans are probably still playing because their defense is outstanding. They've got some skill position people in DeAndre Hopkins who can certainly stretch a defense. Their offensive line is okay, but you put a championship caliber quarterback on that team with that defense, the Texans would certainly be a Super Bowl contender. That just shows you how important the quarterbacking position is, because none of these 4 teams left have a top 10 defense in terms of yards, but they all have 4 very accomplished quarterbacks, and that's why they're left playing.
John, what'd you make of Antonio Brown and the video that he recorded in the Steeler locker room after the game was over, with the head coach Tomlin making some comments about New England, about the matchup and all that obviously no one wanted outside that locker room, but it gets on Facebook, right, gets posted up there, a lot of views. What's been the reaction of that in New England, and in particular with Bill Belichick?
Well, Belichick really didn't even want to talk about it. He doesn't even know what Facebook Live is, or at least he says he doesn't. He's, old school. We see him sometimes with the pencil in his ear, and Tom Brady was on a local show yesterday and said that's not how we do things here. What Tomlin said is what every other coach says after a game to get his team fired up for the next game. It wasn't the Patriots' fault that game in Kansas City got moved from 1 to 8 Eastern. The NFL wanted a primetime game and came up with this cockamamie story about an ice storm. But that gives the Patriots one-day advantage over Pittsburgh. But look, 2 teams played on Saturday, 2 teams played on Sunday. That's the way it works. And then the 4 winners will face off on Sunday. I do find it interesting that 5 of the last 6 divisional playoff games that the Patriots have taken part in, all at home, have all been on Saturday. So obviously there's going to be conspiracy theorists out there against the Patriots saying that the league has been too kind to the Patriots, that they get to play the Saturday game rather than the Sunday game. And look, if you play the Saturday game, you get an extra day to heal up and prepare for your next opponent. You get to sit back in your living room and watch who you're going to play next. But I don't hear the Packers complaining that the Falcons have an extra day to get ready. But if that's the way Mike Tomlin wants to motivate his team, so be it. And you could see the record has been pretty darn good with Mike Tomlin as head coach of the Steelers. I think Antonio Brown, who I think he is one of the 2 or 3 best receivers in the game. I love his personality. He seems very outgoing. Maybe he just went a bit too far and has to have it buttoned up a little bit better. But you know what? If the Steelers come in here and I'll play the Patriots and beat them, that'll be old news.
Yeah, and what Tomlin said was not wrong. I mean, he can. That's what every coach does. You just don't want that outside of the locker room, and that's where Antonio made a little bit of a mistake, I guess you want to call it that. And I'm sure he heard about it from Tomlin. What the heck are you doing? But what kind of game? It's just
interesting that we had an assistant coach in the background, yelling out, whatever you do, make sure you don't do anything on social media that's not going to look right. And of course, Antonio Brown had 660,000 followers. How many people plugged into him? Yeah. But it just is ironic. But the Steelers do things differently than the Patriots, and there's more than one way to do this.
Well, I've said, look, if there's one team that I think could beat New England in a championship game in Foxborough, it's Pittsburgh. What kind of game do you think we're in store for on Sunday?
It's going to be really, really tight. The situation is that you always look at the Patriots defensively. They can always take away one of your weapons. The problem when you go against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have in Antonio Brown, one of the top 2 or 3 wide receivers in football, and in Le'Veon Bell right now, the best running back in football, so versatile. And then you've got a quarterback who's won 2 Super Bowls, not going to be frightened by the stage. So maybe you take Antonio Brown away, but what does that leave you to deal with Le'Veon Bell? And then, of course, you get Roethlisberger pulling the trigger and an outstanding offensive line. So the Steelers' offense is going to cause problems for the Patriots' defense. And I know the Steelers only scored 18 points against Kansas City with the 6 field goals. They had better find a way to get into the end zone if they want to beat the the Patriots here on Sunday. Now there's a concern with the Patriots offensive line because we saw what Texans defensive coordinator Romeo Crennel was able to dial up on Saturday and put pressure on Tom Brady. We've been saying for years the way to get after Brady is to put pressure up the middle because he has nowhere to move from there. If you edge rush him, he has the incredible ability to step up and deliver the ball. If you come right at him, he's not mobile enough to get away from an on-rushing rusher. And the Texans were able to do that, but they also had two Pro Bowl caliber players doing it in Wiley and Jadeveon Clowney. So the Steelers may have a different type of skill set, but I think they're going to try to dial up some pressure on Brady to get him out of his comfort zone. Because if he's in the pocket in a comfort zone, good luck trying to stop him.
John Sapochetti, Boston Herald Drive, our guy here when it comes to talking New England Patriots. Tell our boy Dion Lewis that we said hello, and we'll talk to you down the road. But thanks, as always, John, for a few minutes.
Anytime, guys.